Okay, Space Sleuths and Alien Detectives, this is Joe from ArtAlienTV, and today I'm doing an update on this find which I published about a month ago, not quite a month ago now, June the 21st. Giant insect found on Mars, anomalies galore. I've got the raw image links for this in the description. I'll put more links in this video for any images that I show, any Mars images. Okay, so you can just download them yourself and check them out. All completely official images, according to NASA, that is. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more complicated. I think what I'll do, I'll go straight into it and show you the image I've got now. Now, this is an update. There's that image I just showed you, which I used in that video, of the insect, which looks very much like an ant or similar kind of insect. Stood on the side of this rock here. It doesn't get particularly sharp when you zoom in. It gets a bit more blurry because the images are quite low res. So there we have rock insect found on Mars. That's the meme I did. Here's the rock below. You can see the big rock behind it and the sort of rock that it's sitting on or stood on. I don't think insects actually sit down, do they? They just kind of stand up all the time. Yeah, right. So we've got this kind of slopey rock here. We've got this little slope of sand coming down here, which looks a bit dodgy. Some people have pointed out that it looks fake. It does kind of look a bit fake, but it may have just drifted. I don't know. The image quality isn't really good enough to tell whether it's fake or not because we don't really see any sand texture. There's not enough close-up detail for that. So this could have been doctored, this image, but I don't think it has. I mean, it looks fairly normal to me. But there it is. There it is in situ. And it's kind of sitting on the edge of there, stood on the edge of that, and is looking across, or straight at the rover perhaps. It kind of looks like it's looking at you, which is pretty weird. Now, this image was taken on Sol 2034, which was a while back now, not that recently. Now, go forward about 80 days, 70 or 80 days, to a much more recent image, and we have this clip here. Now, this is the same rock. See this rock here? It's the same one, okay? But what we are now, we're slightly further around to the right and above, looking down. So the rover is driven up the slight sort of slope and is looking back at the same area and the same rock here, right? And it's gone. The insect isn't there. What we do have, let me zoom in. It's a bit hard to get your head around this to start with. You've got to sort of take your time with the image. If you look carefully, where the arrow is here, that arrow would come to here, right? So that insect, which is quite dark and quite prominent, should be right here where my cursor is, and it's not there. You've got this dark shadow here on the rock. Let's zoom in. Actually, it's better if we compare it with that part there. You've got this dark shadow here next to it, which is this bit here. The lighting isn't the same, and also this is taken from further away, so that there's less detail in this image, but you can see that it's missing. Now, it might be easier if we actually go to the folder and look at it a bit more carefully. Now, let's find the clips. There's the overall rock. This is where I took the clip from. I took a clip of this. You've got this kind of big rock behind, and you've got these little ones here. That's where the insect should be, right there. Okay, it's not there. It's gone. I will put clips in at the end of the video as well, and I'll animate them so you can see from one to the other that it's gone. I mean, the best thing to look at really is this, because it should be right here next to this dark, almost triangular, shadowy bit here. You've got that triangular, shadowy bit there, which corresponds to that. It should be there. It should be right next to it here, kind of sticking out. Now, if that was just a rock sticking out, it would still be there. That's what I'm trying to say. but it's gone. Now, what does that mean? Does that mean the image has been doctored by NASA, or has it moved? If it's moved, then it's a living insect. So this may be evidence of living creatures on Mars. However primitive they may be, the intelligent life may have all been wiped out, as far as we know. I suspect there's some underground, and of course insects kind of live underground as well. Ants live underground. Termites live sort of half underground and half above the ground, a bit like ants, who kind of... insects can live in pretty much any environment, almost. Arthropods, the arthropod family, basically cover everything with an exoskeleton. So you've got everything from things like ants and beetles, but also spiders and crabs and lobsters and those kind of creatures. They're all arthropods. Now, I did predict years ago, about 4 or 5 years ago, when I first started doing this channel, that if there was any life to be found on Mars, then it would probably be an arthropod of some sort, either a beetle or, say, a cockroach, that sort of thing, or perhaps a scorpion, or perhaps a spider, or something like that. I did predict that, and if and when we actually get to search some of the watery areas of Mars, which there are, some of the frozen lakes, which are unfrozen some of the time, at least partly, I would fully suspect to find arthropods in the water, such things as shrimp and primitive arthropods of that type as well, because I have found what looked like arthropod fossils in some of these rocks quite a long time ago, actually years ago. Some of my very early videos show what look like arthropod fossils, things like lobsters and that kind of thing. So there we are, there it is. It's quite prominent. Now, even in this small image, you can see this is quite large, this insect. It's quite large. You can see it sticking out. Now, it's definitely not here. Now, even though this is slightly lower res, this image, and it's slightly further away and a bit more out of focus, it's definitely not there because there's no shadow. There should be a shadow here underneath it. Now, I appreciate that the light is at a different angle in this image, and it's not quite the same, but it's obvious that you're looking at the same things. It's just not as defined. I have upped the contrast a bit on this, just to make it stand out, because it was a bit pasty, this image. But you can see that this is the same area, and you can see it should be there. It should be right there where my cursor is, and it's not. The question is, has it moved? I think it has. I don't think this has been doctored by NASA. It's hard to prove either way whether they have doctored it or not, because you could easily just copy and paste a part of this grey sand over there quite easily. But you would expect to see some blend and kind of crop marks if they'd done that just here. And there aren't any. The pixels look pretty normal to me. I mean, you probably can't see the pixels as well as I can. I don't know, because you can actually see that. That's pretty normal. So it does look like the insect has moved. Right, okay. Now, that got me thinking. What if some of these rocks we're looking at aren't rocks at all? What if these are termite mounds or insect mounds? Some of them do resemble termite mounds. And I'm going to show you some examples now. Here's one. Now, it might help actually if we look at some mounds first, right? Termite mounds. There we are. Now, I've also seen a lot of rocks that look like this. If you look inside termite mounds, they've got these kind of internal structures which are kind of hollowed out. Almost, not quite honeycomb, but kind of a bit almost like a honeycomb, but without the symmetry. And you see lots of these weird structures on Mars, in Gale Crater as well as elsewhere, just kind of sticking up from the ground. They kind of look a bit like tree stumps, some of them, and they're kind of sandy rock coloured, just like the ones on Mars. These are just like the ones you see on Mars, just like this. I mean, you could spend all day looking at these. This goes into the internal structures. Now, for there to be living creatures on Mars, there must be a food source. Now, insects are interesting creatures because they grow their own food, right? They're highly intelligent. Individually, they're not supposed to be very intelligent, but well, so we're told. How do we know? But as a group, they are collectively very intelligent because they have a hive mind, and they'll communicate using pheromones and stuff like that. There's loads of structures like this on Mars, and there's a good example. You see this a lot in some of the rocks. You see these kind of hollowed out bits and kind of holes and structures inside. Now this is obviously a mound that's half destroyed, and you can see into it. You see a lot of this on Mars. Now, some of these could be ancient termite mounds that are fossilised, and some of them are huge. You can see this giraffe here. This one's massive. Now the ones on Mars are small if they are termite mounds, and they're not anywhere near as big as that. They're really quite small. They look only like a foot or two high. Now, of course, this could be the remains of a termite mound or something similar that has broken away, and we have this kind of almost spiral-like structure coming up the side of it here. You see this structure coming round, and I thought, what the hell's that? I thought, could it be part of a petrified tree stump or something? Could be. Could it just be a rock? Of course. This is from 2032. This is near that insect I just showed you. Not far from there. It's really not far. But this may have been much, much bigger, and it's all kind of broken away and eroded. And what we have left is part of the outside of the mound, with these kind of hollow structures coming in almost like a spiral pattern. Now, that's probably not the best example. There is another weird one here, which I thought was odd. Could this be part of an insect mound or a termite type mound? It's got these weird structures to it. I mean, this could even be evidence of some kind of plant growth here. You can see these nodules all over it, which are really quite delicate. Far too delicate looking to be a rock, a normal standard rock, I think. Who knows? So that was interesting. I'll see if I can dig up some more examples of these. There's a lot of people have been posting them over the last year or so, last few months at least, and I've kind of ignored a lot of them, thinking, oh, it's just a rock sticking up. But actually, I'm starting to think twice about that, as I am with everything on Mars, and you should, because just because NASA don't announce something doesn't mean it's not there. You know, they are gagged by the military, as a lot of organisations are, and aren't really allowed to tell us everything that they know. For a termite mound or an insect mound to survive on Mars, you would need a food source. Now, what they do, of course, is they gather organic matter from the surrounding area, leaves, that kind of thing, other insects, and then they take them down into the termite mound or insect mound, and they either eat them, or with the organic matter, they gather it at the base of the mound, and they grow fungi on it, and they feed on the fungi. They don't eat the actual leaves. A lot of them live on organic matter they've grown themselves, i.e. fungi. Mould, like a mould fungi, which grows on the vegetable matter as it rots. They keep it. They also have air conditioning. These mounds have air conditioning. These holes are very carefully kind of worked out, so that, I mean, a lot of these are in Australia, and it gets extremely hot in Australia. It's very similar to the conditions on Mars in some ways. It's very hot and dry, and they have the way that the holes and tunnels inside the mound are designed. It acts like air conditioning. It sucks in cooler air, and the hot air goes out the top. Okay, So they're very sophisticated. They have air conditioning, they grow their own food, and who knows what else they do. You know, they're pretty clever, these little creatures. So there are structures like this on Mars. I see lots of them, and I'll see if I can dig up some more, like I said, and I'll put them in at the end of the video. Now, what would they eat? Well, they could eat wood, petrified wood, or partly petrified wood, which looks like what we have here. Now, I can't remember what sol this one was from. This is also from a recent image. I'll put it in at the end. But this looks like a log of wood here, and it's got all this kind of greenish tint to it as well when you enhance the contrast. It's really colourful. So could that be a piece of wood that's petrified? Now, so if there's petrified wood lying around, there must be actual wood lying around somewhere as well. And if it's buried, then they could probably find it in the sand and retrieve organic material from that. Or they could burrow into it, perhaps, and find the wood inside. I mean, if it's kind of petrified on the outside, it would be literally like rock, crystallized rock almost. So that's possible. There also may be organic material just below the surface, below the permafrost. I mean, of course, Gale Crater gets quite hot, so I wouldn't imagine there is any permafrost there at the moment because it's summer. But of course, any moisture that's on the ground would freeze at night because it gets extremely cold at night, even in the summer, about -80. So you would have to live underground, and that's exactly what insects do. So could these be feeding on organic material that's growing below the surface? It is possible. There could be all sorts of things growing below the surface that we have no idea. There could be types of gourd, there could be types of well, no, gourds would grow on the surface, sorry, but there could be types of fungi already growing in the ground. There could be other small insects they could feed on, perhaps. So the possibilities there are almost endless, really, when you start thinking about it. So that's enough about that. I will just show you quickly other examples of insects on Mars. I haven't found many, but this is possibly one of them. This is the video I put up a while ago. UFO seen on Mars, bird, insect or drone. I think insect. Why? It has 3 parts. Possibly an abdomen, a thorax and a head. And let's play that through a little bit. Now, this is actually, we worked out, between myself and the people that have commented on this video, we've kind of worked out that this is probably very close to the camera. It's not a UFO that's quite a long way off. You can see the parts to it here. This looks like an abdomen here. This could be a thorax, this could be a head. Don't really know. Now, with a low-res camera that's out of focus, if this had legs or wings, you wouldn't see them. You'd only see the larger parts of the body, the larger sections of the body, if this is an insect. Okay? So you would not see any legs or wings. If you try, you could try this with your mobile phone. Try taking a photograph of a bee or a fly or something in flight, right? And see if you can actually see the legs or wings. You won't, especially if you've only got a 1 meg camera like this one on the Rover. Of course, you won't only have a 1 meg camera on your phone. You'll have probably a 12 or a 16 or a 20 meg camera. But basically, you ain't going to see the legs with a low res image. You're not going to see any legs, and you're not going to see any wings. This could be a flying ant, for instance. Or, as one person pointed out, it could actually be the exoskeleton of a dead insect, like an ant, which wouldn't have much mass to it, which could just get blown around by the wind. This could just be the outer shell of an insect that's grown out of it and left it behind, and the wind could have picked it up and blown it right into the rover, this thing must have come right up to the Rover camera, because it doesn't show in the other camera. There are 2 cameras together, which are, I'm not sure how far apart they are, not that far apart, about 5 inches or 6 inches apart, I think they are. the two camera lenses. This only shows up on one of them and not the other. So this must be really close to the camera, which explains why we're not seeing much detail, because it's out of focus, right? So that could be an insect with a abdomen, thorax and head here. But we're not seeing any real detail because it's blurred and too close to the camera. So have I finally found evidence of something moving on Mars? Because most of the things I found a lot of weird things on Mars, and I've gone back to the same area and they're still there hundreds of days later when they've shown up in other images. This is one of the very few things I've found that's actually moved on the surface. So this is actually pretty cool. So there we are. I'll put links to all these things here. You can check out these termite mounds. They do look very similar to some of these structures. There's insect body. You've got the basic ant kind of physiology here, where you've got the abdomen, thorax and head, which is pretty basic. Most of you should know that already. But they're very interesting creatures, ants and termites. Here's the raw image for this. It's just not there. Even you can see, even with this grid on the image, you can see it's not there. It is highly possible that there are insects on Mars. They can survive on extremely low quality air. They may not even breathe oxygen. They may convert carbon dioxide or something into breathable air. They may not even need oxygen at all. I suspect they do need a bit, but I mean this one here was the interesting one with that kind of almost spiral structure. Now, if you can imagine this was intact in one piece, this probably go all the way around the outside and carry on up like a helter-skelter. So, and there's that one there which kind of looks like it's got weird stuff growing on it. So, and I have found what looks like moss growing on many of these rocks, and weird fungi looking thing growing on some of these rocks, which are actually bits of petrified wood. So it is possible that insects could feed off these things or those types of organic material, if that's what they are, and then just take it back to their nest or mound, go back underground, take it down to the base of the mound, put it in the correct room, and it would then grow fungi on it and they could feed off that. So perhaps they're using their own agricultural skills to survive. It is possible. Thanks for watching, everybody. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. Check out this other video, UFO seen on Mars, bird, insect or drone. Check that out. Check out the original version of this video, which are an insect found on Mars. That's got loads of other things in it as well, which you might like to see. Also check out Mars Magazine page on Facebook. Come along, it's totally free. You get a free app when you join up. This is a meme machine app. If you want to study Mars and moon images, that kind of thing, and post them online and stuff like that, or make your own channel or whatever, you've got all the tools you need in this app here. Loads and loads of tools there, all for free. Okay, no adverts, no BS. So there we have it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I will see you soon.